Louisa J and I have a agreement worked out where we do a movie one week and then she picks the next one and then we alternate. This was my pick because I like Michael Douglas to play with Danny DeVito. You want to start with, you want to give the synopsis?
I think you did a pretty good job.
I didn't say what it was about.
Okay, I'll try.
You'll do a good job.
Oh, you forgot to mention Kathleen Turner.
Kathleen Turner. Sorry, my bad. Sorry, Kathleen.
Is she married to or related to Ted Turner? I meant to look that up.
Quality question. I don't know. I want to say that
she was a daughter.
I don't know about that. I know that I think he has a famous kid. I don't know if that's her though.
Okay, we'll have to look that up later. I like those details. So these two characters, I don't remember what their names are, but the Roses. Thanks.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, I don't. Okay, we should look this up on IMDb. But,
I mean, it is, yeah. But so they meet. You know, they fall in love.
Where they meet?
What do you mean? Where do they meet?
At the beginning of the movie, do you remember where?
No, I don't remember where. Like at the beach or something. Oh, Nantucket. Oh, here we go. Oliver and Barb.
Oliver and Barb. Okay.
So, yep, they meet and they, get very close very quickly. And then they're married, have 2 kids.
Do you remember when the kids were really little, you can just start to see the fracturing of this relationship. It's not even necessarily a fracture yet. It's like you can see where 2 people's personalities start to split. Because she's like, she's giving the kids treats and he's like, don't enforce bad behavior with sweets. They're going to grow up to be fat.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's right.
The very next scene, their kids are like little manatees in robes.
Yes. When they come down to their dinner.
Yeah.
I was like.
Right?
I was like, oh my gosh.
I was bugging out.
That's so, yeah. Can be a fun parent, but.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like, and this was 1989.
Mm-hmm.
Like people, the things that parents know now, they were just kind of like, the things that parents utilize as just basic common knowledge now were just starting to come to the surface in the 80s. And I remember my folks went to see this movie and they were all excited to see it because they both liked Kathleen Turner and Danny DeVito and Michael Douglas.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they came back, they said almost nothing about it. And I was like, oh. And like, as now, watching now, I'm like, oh, it's because of divorce. And all the things that Barb and Oliver gripe about throughout this movie, like anyone from a divorced home or from divorced parents would see this and be like, yeah, I saw that shit.
Yeah.
They fought all the time. But to get back to Oliver's gripe about the kids getting fat, I think the next element where you kind of see them start to dissolve is when they have that dinner with the partners of Oliver's firm. And before social media, I remember this being like, I remember people having these misguided notions that career advancement was all about like schmoozing people either at the golf course or at home at dinner. And Barb was kind of pushed into telling a story, and she's not like really a storyteller. And so the thing whole falls flat, and then they start arguing about it in bed later. Like, why'd you make me tell this stupid story? Like, it was just about, it was not a good story to begin with.
It was not.
Someone who can't relay a story. It wasn't about how they met. It was about how they found Crystal.
Who's Crystal?
No, Crystal, they're glassware.
Oh.
You remember?
Oh, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
About a trip that they took and they found. They that's found right. That's right. Yeah, I don't know what that was all about. Was he just trying to be nice, but he was gonna want her to tell it a certain way anyway?
I think that I even saw this like at home. Like you kind of shoehorn someone into talking about something that they're not organically going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Then people get kind of uncomfortable, and then it doesn't really work. It's like if you want to talk, if you want to say something, open your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Because this movie was kind of divided into sections of like, how do I say this? Like, it's like if a couple gets together, they get married, they have kids, but it doesn't fully come apart. At least this happened a lot in the 80s until the kids were deep into high school or into college.
Mm-hmm.
And you remember when his son was leaving for college,
mm-hmm.
and they were in the throes of, him and his wife were in the throes of their arguments?
Not really. But
you remember how it like his the son's leaving, and Michael Douglas is like, I want to tell you a couple things before you go, especially about women.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, okay, I remember.
And he's like, don't pawn your shit off all on me.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, son, don't leave like this. And I'm like, well, okay, I can understand you not wanting to separate from your son at that point, but he has a pretty valid point.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I remember that.
What do you remember about their fights?
Mom and Dad's fights.
About how epic they were.
Yeah, that is the word. They were very epic. I had never seen this movie before, and it was like one thing after another that I could not believe. I was like, oh my gosh, what are they going to do next? I couldn't believe all the things that they did. They were so intense, and each one was like more intense. I was like, how can you like beat that, so to speak?
You know what's funny is that it was all about this house, right? This ridiculous giant house.
Ridiculous. And
they turned the house, it was like the ultimate bargaining chip, but they turned it into a weapon.
Yeah, they did.
They just like, and what were the other thing was all their figurines.
Yeah. Yeah, all their figurines. I forget what they were called, but yeah, I've heard of those before. They were
like a particular sculptor.
Yeah, and they're really expensive. Like really, really expensive. And I think at one point they both really loved them. Mm-hmm. And they meant a lot to the both of them. But then they were so bitter toward each other and fighting that they were like...
They were using them like bricks to throw at each other.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know what else kind of like... What like worked me over about this was like... It was a dark comedy, right? Mm-hmm. But like they have 2 kids. Mm-hmm. And by the end of it, spoiler alert, it's 30 years old. So if you haven't seen it, okay. So they're dead at the end. Mm-hmm. They got 2 kids that just went to college, and they're going to find out our parents fought and beat themselves up to death. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I know that fits within a dark comedy, but like, I don't know, that just like, I thought about that because I was in Florida when I saw it. Mm-hmm. God, these poor kids who you only see like them for like maybe 5-10 minutes of the movie, right?
Yeah, not excuse me, yeah, not much at all. They like pop in and pop out.
But then, at the very end of it, you're like, oh God, these people have killed each other over this stupid house. And then you're like, wait a minute, you just orphaned your kids.
I didn't even think about that. They're kids. Like afterward, to be honest.
Can you be an orphan when you're like 19?
I mean, I assume so, yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't have a parent, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like, if you hear a 40-year-old man say, I'm an orphan, like, when did they die? Were you like 5? No, they died last year.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't really qualify, but...
but I think if you went off to college...
like your first year, you're like, you don't even make it to Thanksgiving break.
and your parents are all of a sudden dead.
Not only dead, but the house is absolutely
It wasn't
obliterated.
a car accident.
Yeah, it was like everything.
They killed each other. Oh my gosh, sounds so bad.
The even in the, you know how like you'll see trailers now and they give away the entire movie?
Yes.
In the 80s, that wasn't so much the case. They would just use, you know, a few of the high points, a few of the action points.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like real stunning. I remember when this came out, like it wasn't something I would have gone to have seen.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was only like, I might have been 14 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I remember adults talking about, can you believe that things got that bad? Because that was the social currency.
I wondered about that.
But yeah, Danny DeVito plays the. He wasn't like a part. He was another attorney, right?
Mm-hmm. I think he was Michael Douglas's attorney, right?
Yeah, and I think they both worked at the same firm. And Danny DeVito has a way more, like through most of his life, he has a way more laid back approach to relationships. He's like,
yeah,
I don't see the point in getting married. But then after Oliver and Barb, you know, pass, he ends up like married. But the bulk of the movie is just a retelling he's retelling the story to one of his clients who's thinking about getting divorced.
Mm-hmm.
And the client up and walks out, you know, deciding not to use Danny DeVito's services to go through the divorce. And I have a friend who just went through one. That's the thing about this medium, people, is that if you could only see Louise's face, she's heard this story, there was no other choice for him. And they came, I don't know if they came, so they didn't use the house like a weapon, but the fights that happen in a divorce. Do you know people who, like, did you have friends who came from divorced families?
No, not really. I mean, I knew that it was like a thing that existed, but I didn't know anybody who, I mean, really, honestly, the only divorces that I've seen have been on TV or in the movies.
Really? What about like, don't you interact with folks from work who like are going through that? Maybe that might be a little early, but.
Yeah, when I was younger, for sure. But the closest that I can think of, I had a coworker at the preschool who got divorced, but she was, you know, it was her and her husband that got divorced, so I didn't really hear about things, how bad things got. And they're still, I mean, like when I think of divorce, and I don't have any obviously experience, but I think of like these people are done. They're like separated, but like a lot of times I think I hear like people still talk to each other. Like they're still like friends. And I think for the kids, like they have, if they have kids, they like have to be like that maybe.
Maybe civil.
But like, I don't know, that would be really hard.
Well, see, that's the thing with the way it seems.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's gotta be.
It's gotta be so difficult.
Like, especially when you have little ones
mm-hmm.
and you split up and you still have to see this person. You pay them child support or alimony,
mm-hmm.
and then they're hooking up with somebody else, and you gotta like you gotta hear about it from the kid. Ugh.
Yeah, that would be awful. But that would be awful.
The movie, you don't really see that.
No,
I don't think they didn't really have another person they were with, but
no.
As far as the relationship goes,
they just hated each other so much.
Well,
yeah.
Do you remember that there was a scene where they have dinner, or she
mm-hmm.
makes him dinner,
mm-hmm.
and he thinks it's to reconcile.
Yes, yes.
And really, she's like like she just like swallows her pride and makes him dinner and is like, just give me the house. You can buy 3 of these. You make so much money. And he's like, we still love each other. I don't think you can come to grips with the fact that I don't love you. And like, even though this is a comedy, like just when you hear somebody say that, it's just gut wrenching. I could just like, that's one of the, it's probably an unsung moment of Michael Douglas's career, but like when she says that, and he's just like, he has this glimmer of complete defeat on his face.
I think it was very interesting. I don't know how this falls into the conversation, but she decorated that whole house, like everything inside. I mean, yeah, he bought the house and he bought everything to decorate it, but like it was beautiful, like completely and totally beautiful.
Even for the 80s.
And she did all of that.
That was her job.
I mean, she did all of that. She found all that stuff. She was the interior designer for that house that they lived in together. And then, like you said, it became a weapon and they fought over it. I mean, common sense kind of tells me, like, yeah, she should get the house. But I get it. I mean,
like, I guess it's debatable, but like, when she said, well, it's debatable in that, like, there's, every situation of divorce is different, but when she said you can replace everything, you can buy a new house, it's even bigger. It's like, all right, come on, man. What do you care? Why don't you just give her the house, take the figurines that you care about? Because the other crap you don't care about. You care about certain figurines. Just take those.
Yeah.
And instead it becomes this, and you know, like, marriage has always been a crazy thing to me. Like, I've never understood it. Like, I've understood commitment, but like this idea that you have to cohabitate, and you know, I think that marriage is like, God, if we ever develop a following, Louisa, they're like, the women are going to come out of the woodwork to tear me up over this. I think it becomes like this kind of socially enforced psychosis. You know, that you have to live in the same space, and that, I guess I kind of get it for kids if you're going to raise children, but there's no telling the way. Like, I wasn't the same person I was when I was 20, even 30 for that matter. And the chances that you're going to be moving in the same path with a person, it's 50-50. I mean, that's why there's the divorce rate in this country so high. So I applaud Danny DeVito. What is this, like 30 years later, for making a movie about something that affects half of all couples. You were checking your notes. Was there something you wanted to?
No, I was just looking at the details that I wrote down.
Well, share.
I don't know. Well, we didn't talk about the housekeeper.
Polish.
And I thought that was interesting. I thought that was that she was an interesting character, and that you never knew where she was. Very neutral. I thought she did a very good job of being.
You can tell she really liked them as people.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I liked her character. She was like, she wasn't getting in the middle of anything. She was just there to do her job. And I think that would be really hard. I mean,
it would suck, especially if you like the people. And you feel like a lot of housekeepers for wealthier families, they develop a relationship, especially with the kids. And then with, you know, it'd be so strange to be like really tight with your employer and then be like, yeah, I want to kill Mr. Rose. So like, we're going to let the house go. And it's like, you know, what'd be funny is if they're both rich and they both end up buying separate properties, like that person could become a bargaining chip, like to take care of the person's place. Because, and that's, you know, the other funny thing is about this movie, the kids are gone.
Yeah.
And there's 2 people. Then they're going to split up. They're going to be one person. This woman is going to live in it. Well, I guess she could sell it. But like, it didn't really strike me as they wanted to sell the house because they built everything in it, right?
Yeah. I don't think they wanted to. It's just one of them wanted it.
It's crazy. Like,
to own it.
Now that would be like a $5 million house.
Mm-hmm.
And one person living in it. Like, if you're 12, ostensibly, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But then when you're like, she was just starting her food business. That's another thing we didn't talk about, is when she had the critics over. And he inserts himself drunk in a top hat.
Oh my gosh. Like I said before, I couldn't believe it. It was like one thing after another, and they were so awful to each other. Like I was just blown away. Like I could
Go
not
ahead and tell the listeners how he ruined her meal.
Well, is that when he drove the car into the window?
Before that, the main course
was the dog.
The fish.
Was the fish. The fish. Oh. The wife was starting a catering business. Yeah. She had her clients over for a dinner so that they could, I don't know, taste or, whatever. And taste her dishes, and she made fish. That's right. And he peed on the fish.
Comes down in a tuxedo with tails and that absurd top hat.
Mm-hmm. And he threatens to do it, and then he really does. Yeah. He goes into the kitchen and she opens the door.
And I'm like, oh my God, he's pissing on the stove.
And then all the guests come into the kitchen. Didn't they all come into the kitchen and see that? And they're like, we're not eating the fish. Oh, yeah, I forgot about, yeah.
That's the other funny thing. It's like, I don't know if he meant it like this, but it's kind of a commentary on like wealth and ownership. Mm-hmm. Because all of their stuff ended up being like the means to which they waged war. Mm-hmm. Like she bought him at the very beginning. She bought him what was that car? A Morgan, an old.
That's right.
Old Morgan, and she had that giant jacked up Bronco.
Mm-hmm. She did.
And then when he was trying to drive away. He was still drunk right after he peed on the fish. She drove over him. Oh, God, that was great. And it's funny because she bought him that car. It's fun to talk about like fictional characters as if they're real people, right? But I can because I grew up in the suburbs, and I can tell you stories of nobody who drove over their spouse, but things equally as crazy when they get upset with one another. Mm-hmm. It's like by the end of that movie, it's like, what are you trying to save the house? It's like to buy a new one's going to be just as much as it's going to cost to like rehab this one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they really did do a number on that house. And it was huge. You were talking about that before. I mean, it was huge.
We both have spent a significant amount of free time critiquing clothing, not only movies, but architecture. And it's kind of fun to watch the transition from, he started out as a totally broke lawyer. He didn't have any clients. He wasn't repped by a firm or anything. And then, through the years he ascends, and he's got, they've got this walk-in bathroom and then walk-in closets and huge canopy bed. And, by the last 30 minutes of the movie, they're using dishes to hit each other. And, I'm not saying I wasn't entertained by it, but I was kind of like, oh, it's like a regular day at home.
That's so awful.
Well, yeah, there's going to be people who say, oh, that's so sad. I'm like, hey, I mean, it's sad when you're a kid going through it, but like as an adult, I think that's where all the learning happens. If your parents don't kill one another, but like, you look back and you're like, God, you guys really fucked that up. It'd be so much, your life would have been so much better if you just had like a separate house. You could go to your respective corners, cool down. And then, Danny DeVito's listening to this. I'm sure he's saying, like, it doesn't make as good of a movie, dummy. But that's the other thing with a movie is the audience, is supposed to take something away from it. And I wonder in 1989 how many married couples like my folks went to this and came out being like, maybe there's a better way to handle our marriage,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the way you grew up, I think you're lucky that you didn't have to see this, but like, oh God, like 4 people living under the same roof, it just seems crazy to me now.
Yeah.
Way to go, Danny DeVito. Quality black comedy. You're right in your lane.
It was.
What do you think? Dessert? Time to talk about food?
Mm-hmm.
Our recipe for the week, dinner and a movie, off the Hey Honey Instagram page. I found, it's going to be so fattening, Louisa. What do we got here? Peanut butter honeycomb pie. Do you think it sounds fattening?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, take a look. What do you think? God, you wouldn't be able to get out of bed.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, I know. You wouldn't be able to get out of bed after eating a slice of that thing.
Or you'd have to crawl or roll over to your bed.
Right now, ladies and gentlemen, it's not good for you, which means it's delicious. So today's recipe comes from We Chef Network. That's my attempt at French. We.
Oh.
So there are lots of different variations with all the recipes I give you, but this is the one that I like the best. You can always Google search peanut butter honeycomb pie if you want to switch it up a little bit. But to start out, we're going to do crust and filling, honeycomb and topping. So there's 4 elements that we got to throw stuff in here. For the crust, you're going to need 9 graham crackers crushed, 1/4 cup packed light brown sugar, although I think the dark stuff tastes better. 1/4 teaspoon kosher salt, 1/8 teaspoon freshly grated nutmeg. You can buy it. I'm sure you can get it, out of what do you call those things? You don't have to grate your own spices. It's a little much.
No, you can buy it. Yeah,
yeah. 6 tablespoons. Oh my God. What 3/4 stick butter melted. Anything with butter, like I haven't had it in so long. Like I just say it and I can feel my heart like pushing extra hard to get the blood into my feet. All right, that's just for the crust. Filling.
3 sticks of butter just for the crust?
No, 3/4. But I mean, if you want it to taste good, you can use 3 sticks. Luis is flushed at the idea of having pie with 3 sticks of butter in it.
The crust.
Filling 8 large egg yolks, 12 tablespoons sugar, 1.5 cup whole milk, obviously, because if you use skim, it's going to fall apart. 1 vanilla bean. Actually, that's a good idea. Don't use vanilla extract. If you use vanilla bean, it's going to be more labor intensive for sure, but it's going to taste way better. 3/4 cup or 1 1/2 sticks butter. 1 cup creamy peanut butter. 2 tablespoons powdered sugar. 1/2 cup kosher salt. Now for the honeycomb component, this is item 3. 1 1/2 cup sugar. Oh my God, you're going to get fat. 3 tablespoons corn syrup. No. Oh God, I would say substitute that with honey for sure.
Sounds like a good idea.
You know what? This might be the other recipe. I don't remember corn syrup being in there. And as everyone knows who comes to my booth, corn syrup is the black sheep of the food family. Don't use that. Use honey. Actually, that's ingredient number 2 or number 3. 1 tablespoon honey. I don't know. If you can, it's only 3 tablespoons of corn syrup. I would think you could remove that. I don't think that's really super necessary. And a tablespoon baking soda sifted. Now for the topping, item 4, 2 ounces bittersweet chocolate. Don't exceed 61% cacao unless you're awesome and really like it chocolate. 2.5 tablespoons unsalted butter, honeycomb. Oh man, that's gonna make a mess. I'll bet that is delicious though. And 1/4 cup roasted and salted peanuts. Okay, this is going to be a longer recipe, so I'm going to breeze through it. For the crust, you're preheating to 325. Grind finely the graham cracker, sugar, salt, and nutmeg in a food processor, and then you're going to transfer it to a medium mixing bowl. You're going to throw in your butter, stir to blend, and use the bottom and sides of a measuring cup to pack the crumbs into the bottom and up the sides of a 9-inch glass or a metal pie pan. And then you're going to bake till it's brown, roughly 15 minutes, let it cool. Now for the filling. You're going to mix your egg yolks and 6 tablespoons sugar in a bowl of a stand mixers fitted with a whisk attachment. Beat at a high speed until ribbons form. Stopping once to scrape down the sides of the bowl. Give it about 2, 3, 4 minutes. You don't want to beat it too long, otherwise it's going to turn into like thick, unmanageable cream or thickened butter. Combine milk and the remaining 6 tablespoons sugar in a large saucepan. Scrape the seeds from the vanilla bean. This is the money portion. Scrape the seeds from the vanilla bean and add the bean. Bring to a boil, stirring to dissolve the sugar. Remove the bean. The bean is like a long blackish strand. You don't want it floating around in there because it's not really edible. It's almost like it's kind of like a piece of bark at that point, isn't it, Lisa? Yeah. Remove, and then with the mixer running, gradually add hot milk, the hot milk mixture to the yolk. Scrape back into a pan, clean the bowl, whisking constantly, bring it to a boil over medium heat. Remove the pan from the heat and whisk for about a minute. Bring the custard into the mixing bowl. Beat on high speed until cool. About 4 minutes. Mix in the butter on the tablespoon. One portion at a time, tablespoon at a time. Add the peanut butter, powdered sugar, salt. Beat it to blend. Scrape the filling into a cooled crust until it's smooth. And then you're going to want to chill that for a couple, 2-3 hours. Now for the honeycomb, you're halfway home. Line the baking sheet with parchment paper. That's important, otherwise you're never going to get it off. Combine sugar, corn syrup if you decide to use it, honey, and a 1/3 cup water in a heavy and deep saucepan. Stir that over low to medium heat until the sugar dissolves, and then increase the heat until it's high. You want to bring it to a boil. You're going to start to boil off some of the moisture. Cook without stirring, occasionally swirling the pan and brushing down the sides with a wet pastry brush. Make sure you have that until the sugar turns like a pale amber. But here's the part where you got to work fast. Add the baking soda. The mixture will foam up dramatically. So whisk quickly just to combine it. Immediately pour the candy over the prepared sheet. Don't spread it out. Just let it take the natural shape of the pan. And then let stand undisturbed until it's cool, maybe 20-30 minutes. And hit candy on several places with the handle of a knife to crack it. It's kind of like creme brulee, one of Louise's personal favorites. Now topping, you're almost done. So stir the chocolate and butter in a medium bowl. Set it over a saucepan of simmering water until melted and smooth, and then drizzle some of the chocolate glaze over the peanut butter filling, making a circle in the middle of the pie and then leaving a 1 to 2 inch plain border. Pile pieces of honeycomb and salted peanuts on top, and then drizzle the remaining chocolate glaze over the top, and start counting calories and figuring out people that you can give this away to, because if you eat all of this, you're going to be in the hospital by dessert time. What did you find this week that was life-changing or repulsive or...
So just in general, I'm not a fan of reality TV. Like...
You're not? There's so much culture in it.
Ridiculous, dumb, stupid culture.
Okay, you got me there. I didn't qualify.
A waste of my time culture.
Yeah, I'm always, I'm always fascinated by the types of people who consume particular media. Like, are you ever surprised that somebody listens to a particular show?
Yes.
Or
very much so.
Come on, I thought you were smarter than that.
Yep, well said.
We could talk about this like folks who, you like Joe Rogan? Or, who is that guy?
Things are not looking well for him, by the way.
Well, his, the N-word thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he actually put out I like Joe Rogan.
Mm-hmm.
I do. But he put out a video. I just saw it this morning before I went to the show.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that video that's circulating, at least from his camp, he says that it was cut together. It was a bunch of those words cut together. They were used out of context. Either things that were scripted or conversations he was having with people about race.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the issue I have with news is whenever things are taken out of context, you can paint someone however you want.
Mm-hmm.
And I've listened to his show. I don't agree with everything that comes out of his mouth, but I do like him in that he will talk to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll have, he's not like a trained journalist, but he's rational.
Mm-hmm.
From what I've seen, in my estimation. I mean, he does like everybody else, he says stupid things.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the reason he has the following he does is because, he talks to interesting people. He lets them say what they have to say. And he'll ask probing questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like if there's a gap in the general knowledge that on any particular topic, he'll find an expert on that and say, why don't people understand this? Or why are people not, why is ivermectin being demonized the way it is? It's not a horse tranquilizer as it's being painted by the mainstream media. I'll have on reputable doctors who will counter that argument.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets attacked. He brings on credible guests. And then the next thing you see about him is a character assassination. So I just don't buy that.
Yeah.
I think things aren't looking good, but I mean, like, if you look at the history of his engagement with the media, that just stinks to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they paint him one way. He's like, the way you're painting me is bullshit. And I'll have on people who are medical professionals to pitch my case.
Yeah.
Which I think that's an intelligent approach. And then a couple weeks later, like, Joe Rogan uses the N-word and he hates black people. Come on.
Yeah.
And
like, if it was pulled out of context, and that happens a lot. That's too bad.
To me, it just seems orchestrated.
Yeah. Well, and then they orchestrate it and people read it and they're like, oh, yep, let's think about and feel how the media wants us to feel. It's not the whole story, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
It's never the whole story. And see, this is the thing, is that this is the problem with media, is that it's like this bastard stepbrother for real conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And people's behavior and opinions on whatever, they're dynamic. They're varied. And you can't even, even you and I can talk for 5 hours and you're still not going to know everything about me or how I'd react in a certain situation.
That's true.
And people like listening to him, and he pulls better numbers than a lot of networks. Mm-hmm. They don't like that.
Yeah, that's true.
He's just some fighting commentator. Why are people paying it? Because this format, this media, personally, I think it's more authentic. Mm-hmm. And he does a pretty good job of trying to be authentic.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, but I mean, I think he does a better job of it than the O'Reilly Factor. Did you ever see that guy?
No, but I know what you're talking about.
What a joke!
Yeah,
manufactured. You bring people on to fight with him, and who else? That's from that. It's from that younger or from that older generation. It was always very combative, and nothing really gets learned. And after a while, consumers of that media, they just get tired of it. I'm just, all I do is feel angry at people when I watch this. It's I'm sorry, I go off on my tangent here. We didn't start this to talk about Joe Rogan. What were we talking about? What was your headline?
Oh, reality shows.
Oh, reality shows.
Headlines. Yeah.
Why?
The latest one, I think, I saw an ad for it on the back of one of my People magazines.
Don't admit that.
I'm going to admit that. I'm going to admit that happily and freely. I love my People magazine. They're not Us Weekly. They print the truth. I tell everybody that.
Okay.
It's true.
So tell me.
And they also have real stories. It's not all just celebrity fabrication.
Okay.
But anyway, so on the back.
I can't dump on it because I haven't read People in a while. But go ahead.
Well, I have a lot of them if you'd like them. This reality show. So it's this family, and I think they have 3 or 4 kids, and one of their...
What's the name of the show?
I don't know what the name of the show is. Yeah, I don't know what it is. One of their daughters had, I believe, a brain tumor when she was little, and it stunted her growth, and she is now 22 years old, but she looks like an 8-year-old.
You. Just kidding.
And
oh wait, I did hear it. You're right. I do remember hearing about this. Okay.
And I thought when I heard about it, I thought, that's just that's completely and totally ridiculous. But it's for real.
You watched it? No,
I didn't. I just saw an ad for it. A printed ad.
So she's a grown woman, but she has every appearance of a child.
Actually, now that I think about it, I think there's an article in the magazine this week about it. That's why. But there's also an ad on the back of the magazine. So
am I right about that? She has not the affectations, but if you were to look at her, you're that's a child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she's a grown. Oh God. And the JRVP, Junior Vice President podcast has already talked about this, and I'm not trying to step on Anthony's toes. But
I just couldn't believe it when I heard it, and I just thought it was kind of an interesting premise. But then it's for real.
How would you ever she'll never date. Unless she dates a pedophile.
Yeah.
Which is so sad because she's not a... I wonder if that would be a home run for a pedophile. I'm just hey, I don't condone it.
I know you don't. I know you don't. I'm just
I wonder
reacting immediately.
I wonder if that's his get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
It's like the unicorn for a pedophile.
Mm-hmm.
She's, oh, it's totally legal, but she happens to fit the kink that I have that just also happens to be a felony.
That's so bad. This poor girl.
Like,
well, and then they're making a TV show out of it and like her life, and I was just like, I wouldn't.
She might as well get paid off of it. I mean,
yeah, I guess, but
like, because seriously, Louisa, like her finding any kind of like stable relationship, that's an uphill fucking battle for the best looking of us.
Yeah, it's gonna be rough for her.
So, like, I'll bet you the producers pitched it to her that way. Too.
Yeah.
You know, they were like, okay, look, you're not going to find anybody because look at you. But I'll bet we can get a 60 share out of this.
And you were like, okay.
What kind of percentages and what splits are we talking? Like, what kind of markets can you get? No problem, we can sell it to Europe. Those people are all freaks. Especially in France. They'll eat it up.
Oh, man.
So, you know, like, exploitative, sure. But if I were her, I'd make that deal all day long. Especially if she gets, like, points or she gets, like, a piece of the action all day. Actually, if she's smart, she should negotiate for that. But this, like, where they just pay her a fee, no fucking way. No way. There's no scale for that because that's like a one-trick pony story, you know? Mm-hmm. You can tell that story one time, but then what, are you going to have a book deal after it? I don't think so.
I also kind of wonder about her siblings. Like...
why, her siblings are normal?
Yeah.
Oh! Can you imagine Christmas dinner over there? Oh.
I don't know.
Like when people are bringing their regular-sized girlfriends.
They're regular sized.
Regular sized and like regular aged.
Oh my gosh.
And she, like anybody who shows up with her, I know Anthony already like ripped into this. Like, look, they're going to look at that guy and right there, they're going to be like, I know what your kink is. Creep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like immediately.
Yeah. Poor girl.
What's her name?
I don't know.
You don't know her name? You gotta do better research here. We gotta find out names of these people.
I know it is. I don't have a lot of facts, a lot of information.
That's so rough. What else? What was number 2?
Oh, number 2. Also reading on people.com today. I saw a story about a 19-year-old girl who went overseas to meet with this guy that was her boyfriend. And I think that they had met before this too. Like she had gone over there. And he was a creep. And
she's 19?
Mm-hmm. She's 19.
How old's he?
Again, the research, but
oh, Louisa.
He's at least 22.
That's not bad.
No, it's not bad. No, I didn't say it was bad.
Okay, so
I'm just painting the story.
Okay.
So, I guess she was of Mormon faith and she was going over to talk to him about that.
Oh, okay. All right. About being Mormon?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Or maybe like, I don't know, to try to convert him or tell him why it's good. I don't know. Anyway, it's very sad, but he murdered her.
Not to sound like the way it's going to sound, but like, not surprised. I mean,
no, I agree with both. Like, yeah, no, not surprised.
She should have been murdered.
No. No, I would never say that.
Have you ever talked to those people?
I didn't even think about it like that.
They're all happy and blissful.
I just feel bad. I mean, that's awful.
Well, okay. First of all, murder happens all the time. So
this is true. Unfortunately.
Not something to feel all that bad about. It's just part of life. Murder's part of life.
Oh my gosh. That might be how you feel, but it's bad.
No, it's awful, but like think about how many stories are out there where like before you hear the end,
mm-hmm.
and let's say the end of the story turns out to be nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
But like a kid runs away from home,
Yep.
hops a plane, hops a train, travels cross country,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing happens to him.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's umpteen opportunities for them to be raped or murdered or like something horrible, and nothing happens to them. And you never hear
about
those.
I
never
know.
Hear those stories.
You're right.
You only hear,
never. Yeah, that's
you
true.
You only hear the ones about the people, like the kid who was murdered in an airplane and stuffed into a toilet or some crazy shit. Some like the more graphic and the more horrendous and depressing. If it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah.
Like that's why these stories show up in the news.
Mm-hmm.
So, one less Mormon, debatable whether or not it's sad. Oh, you don't have to be upset, Louisa. No Mormons are listening to this. Yeah. So, like, we're gonna have to invest more time in the research because I want to know what led up to the murder.
Yes.
Like he got over there and he was like, "What'd you make me for dinner? Tuna casserole." He just starts swinging. That was kind of a Bill Burr joke, but like, was he like? Did it start off as a religious argument, or did she like? Now, she didn't want to go to the movie he wanted to go to, or she picked the wrong ice cream, or like didn't like the way he dressed, and that's what escalated the art. I want to know what the trajectory of this fight was.
It would be interesting to know that. Yes, I think that it's so new. I mean, it just happened, or at least I just read about it, and I mean, he admitted that he did it. I think, and he didn't say much. I read the article and he said, yes, this is my name. Yes, this is where I live. Yes, I don't know, I'm this old or whatever. But like, yeah, I don't know why he did it. What, I don't know. And like, what their history was. I mean,
Tom Segura had a great bit about this. Like whenever these people who commit crimes, like on First 48, they get hauled into, the police station,
mm-hmm.
and they just start questioning these people, and they like spill, I shot that guy, and like two of the people he watched like 2 series worth of.
Oh my gosh, I saw this one.
And 2 people were like, "Can I talk to a lawyer?" And both times the cops were like, "Fuck!" And it's.
I watched that. That was hilarious.
It's crazy to me that people, when they get in trouble with the law, that they don't ask for an attorney.
Yeah.
Like, have you never watched TV?
Did you not go to school? Did you not learn? Did you not?
I learned that from Starsky and Hutch.
Okay, so see, I mean, what were you like? Yeah, I don't know. And
I'm not trying to advocate for criminals to like get off, but like you have basic rights in this country. Or like maybe if this arrest took place overseas, you might not have had those, but over here, ask for a lawyer. Damn it. If you learn nothing from this podcast, ask for a lawyer. Like we have an experience with it.
Listen, right. JC.
And with that, I got to get something to eat.
I'm starving.
All right. Next week, what are we talking? Columbus. With...
Not Ohio, people. Ohio. Indiana.
With the oddly likable John Cho. And actually, we'll tell you all the other cast members next time, because I don't know that any of them are. Some of them are breakout folks, I think.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Parker Posey was in it.
Parker Posey was in it. Until next time, behave. And if you're not going to behave, don't get caught.
Get a lawyer.